Hello, my friends. Welcome. My name is Joe. This is the Joe Martino Show. And today I want to talk to you about 3 actionable steps we can all take to cultivate contentment in our lives so that we can have peace. Wanting peace is not enough. Stopping talking to other people is not enough. We actually have to go further, and we have to have what I call proactive happiness steps, proactive gratitude steps. Let's kick it off. This is the Joe Martino Show.
You're listening to The Joe Martino Show, a podcast dealing with all things emotional, relational, and human nature. Joe is a licensed counselor in the state of Michigan, specializing in relationship therapy. He is also the author of the book, The Emotionally Secure Couple. All advice offered in this episode is offered for entertainment and educational purposes only. Enjoy the show.
Hey friends, I hope that your day is going well. I hope that wherever you're at today, life is treating you well. Today I want to talk to you about the price that we pay for peace. There are 2 key prices that everyone has to pay for peace. I talk to people all the time like, I'm at the age of my life where I just want more and more peace. Awesome. There's 2 things you have to be willing to do. You have to learn contentment, and you have to stop being so invested in telling other people how to live their lives. Those 2 truths are the cornerstone for how you can find peace. Now, I often meet resistance. I'll have people tell me all the time, I'm coming to therapy. I need to learn more peace. I need to find a more peaceful setting. Okay, cool. Learn contentment and learn to stop telling other people how to live their lives. That doesn't mean you can't invite them to live their lives differently, but spend less time worried about how they live their life, and it will give their lives, and it will give you an immeasurable, immense amount of peace. Okay, so what does this mean? Here's what it means. First of all, when we say contentment is the price that you pay for peace, that's where it starts. Because a lot of us telling other people how to live their lives is a lack of contentment. What is the opposite of contentment? What's really interesting to me is when I went and looked that up, I can't find any articles on it. I can find word sites, right, that give you antonyms and synonyms. But the opposite of contentment is greed, jealousy. And a lot of what we do when we're telling other people how to live their lives is greed and jealousy and the desire for control. And when we try to desire control, especially over other people, we lose the plot of a peaceful life. So in order to have contentment, we have to do 3 things. In order to have peace, we have to do 3 things. We have to cultivate contentment. When we do that by cultivating a heart, a spirit, an attitude of thankfulness, and we recognize that we have no control over what other people do. We let other people live their lives. And sometimes when I talk about this, people get it twisted and they're like, well, isn't that what a counselor does? Tells other people to live their lives? No, I never tell other people how to live their lives. What I ask other people is, how do you want to live your life? And then what is it that you're hoping I can tell you to help you, right? And I'll talk about this in other episodes. Not everybody who comes to counseling what helps. What they really want is to just be affirmed in what they're doing. And I can't always do that. Well, what I'm doing is actually helpful. No, what you're doing is selfish. And typically selfishness ends up in destruction. And that's something that it's weird for me to say this. To me, it's weird. That's something it's controversial. It's countercultural in today's society. That selfishness isn't good. I just need to be more selfish. No, you don't. You probably really don't. I doubt it. What you actually need to do is probably cultivate contentment so that you can have peace. Right? And here's the thing. Again, if you don't want peace, that's fine. If you want peace, this is how it goes. And this is a little bit like, I live out in the country. There's a dead end road by my house. I was talking to a guy one time. He's like, it amazes me how many people ignore the dead end sign. They drive down to the end of it and then they come back and they're like, well, where I was looking for it wasn't there. Whether or not they want that red road to dead end is irrelevant. That road dead ends. One of the things that we have lost in life because we're so bent on trying to make sure that people have this agency. And ironically, what we've done is we've taken away. I've got an episode coming up about how we're taking agency away from kids all the time. But one of the things that we do is, in order for people to have agency, they can just ignore trends. Like realistically, if I get in my car right now, I'm at my office in Cascade, which if you don't live local, that doesn't mean anything to you. But I can get on Cascade Road and I can run that one of 2 directions. If I go the direction towards my house, I will end up eventually in the town near my house. I won't actually get there. I have to make some more turns. If I go the other way, that's the way it is. And when people come in to counseling and they say they want peace, the road to peace goes through contentment, period. And contentment starts with cultivating an attitude of gratefulness. So what do? Well, we start with, let's talk about how do we cultivate gratefulness. There is a truth that's really interesting. What they find is when people take the time to write down 3 things they're grateful for in the last 24 hours, it changes how they start to perceive the world around them. The world around them didn't actually change, but how they perceive it changed. And so what happens is when they start to take time and they write down at night, maybe before they go to sleep or in the morning, first thing when they wake up, 3 things that they're grateful for in the last 24 hours, their brain starts to look for things to be thankful for. And in turn, this helps them to develop a posture of thankfulness, a posture of gratitude. People who take time to write out an incident that happened that was positive, that they were thankful for, this also helps them. It helps them to, again, start to relive. What it does is when you write it out, you take time to journal it out. I'm not talking forever, a minute, just journal it out for a minute. This happened. What happens is your brain relives that positive experience, and it helps cultivate a posture, a position of thankfulness, a posture of gratitude. If you decide, I'm going to find 3 or more people to say thank you to today, guess what it does? It starts to cultivate a posture of gratitude in your brain. Thank you. You're walking through a door, going in the store. Thank you. I appreciate that. Or somebody, a coworker at work does something. Thank you. I appreciate that. Somebody in your family does something. Thank you. I appreciate that. And what happens is you start to look for things to be thankful for. Now, these are all what I would call proactive approaches, right? We want to start developing our brain to think about what are things that we can be thankful for. Because contentment, what comes for contentment is the desire for more. And I want to be clear here. I believe you can be content and still striving for more in your life. But that doesn't mean that you should be searching for more at the expense of contentment, right? Or at the expense of gratefulness. Sometimes I think we get that mixed up, that somehow contentment means I've settled. And I don't agree with that at all. I don't think definitions agree with that. So we start to build this position of thankfulness. And when those voices come about not contentment, right? And I was thinking about this. There's a guy I know building a cottage up on Lake Michigan, and you could probably fit my house 3 times in the cottage. That's okay. That doesn't devalue my house. It doesn't devalue. I remember when we moved into that house, how excited we were almost 18 years ago now, 19 years ago now. What a blessing it was. How it was everything we wanted. It was out in the country, and it was even blue, which is my favorite color. And then, you got to do things. And like right now, my front porch lights, we replaced them this weekend, and they don't work. And I don't know why. And I know they're wired right. So don't write in and be like, hey, did you wire them right? Yes, they're wired right. I think it's something in the wiring that was done before I lived there. But we're going to figure that out, right? And so, because here's what happens. As we develop gratefulness, we need to do something else. We need to develop happiness for other people's success. So I can be happy for my friend building his cottage, which is 12,000 square feet, which is way bigger than my house, probably 5 times my house. Not 5 times, but you know what I mean. And still be content about my house. And still like, you know what? I don't know that I want. We were at a concert or my wife was looking somebody up, and I think they live in a 22,000 square foot house with 10 bathrooms. I don't think I'd ever want to live in a house that big. But I might want more. I might want a bigger house someday. I don't know. I probably don't. I probably want a smaller house. I would like a Ford Raptor. I've talked about that before. I know my son would. We'd probably have fun with it. Can you be content? Because here's the thing. We tend to believe that happiness and contentment comes from other things. And I talked about that a few episodes ago, or maybe last week's episode. I record these in advance, and I don't always know when the next episode's going up. I don't always know the order that I'm going to get them back from my editor. So if you want peace, and therefore you're going to have to want contentment, you have to develop thankfulness for what's going on in your life, gratitude for what's going on in your life, but then true happiness for other people when they succeed. Someone once said, I don't remember who it was, but someone once said, everybody talks about having somebody you can call at 2 a.m. when things are going bad, and that's good. We should have those people. But it's amazing how few people have someone that they can call when good things happen. Because people aren't happy for other people when good things happen. I have a friend who's amazing at this, and he was talking to me one time. My daughter and I went to a Michigan game, and he was cheering and hopeful that Michigan would win. And he cheers for the state south of us, the school south of us. He grew up there, which we don't hold that against him. He can't help where he was born. And his son was like, Dad, how can you be cheering for Michigan? We cheer for, this team named after a worthless nut. And he was like, because I can be excited for my friends to have a good time. That is how you develop a spirit of contentment which is the price you pay for happiness. You develop by engaging repeatedly the idea of being excited when things go well for your friends. If like I want a boat, when my friends buy a boat, I should be happy for them. Not like, oh man, I want a boat too. The truth is, I can be like, oh dude, I want a boat. I do want a boat. I don't know that I'll ever get one, but I want a boat. And when my friends get one, I should be like, hey, good for you. I want a cottage. I don't know if I want one that big, but I want a cottage. But I can be like, oh man, I want a cottage. And yo, I'm excited for you that you have a cottage, that you're building a cottage, whatever it is. Learn to be excited for other people, because when you're excited for other people, you're killing jealousy, and jealousy kills gratitude, and lack of gratitude kills contentment, and a lack of contentment kills peace. And here's the other thing you'll notice. Once we start to get a hold of those, what we want to do is we want to kill this idea that we have to control other people. And that starts with us developing gratitude, right? Because if I'm thankful for what I have, I don't need to control someone else. If I am thankful and appreciative and excited for other people, in other words, as someone once wrote in the Bible, if I'm celebrating with people who are celebrating, I'm cultivating a mindset that doesn't have time to tell other people how to live, that doesn't demand other people live the way that I want them to live, that isn't fighting for control. Now, I want to be clear. There's a difference in fighting for control and inviting people to live better. I do this all the time with my kids. Like, do what you want, but I'm old. I'm so old that when I walk, I walk funny because my knees need surgery and all those things. And I have experiences that you can either learn from or you can go through them yourself and learn them. That is your choice. I'm not here to control you. I'm here to invite you into a better way to live. This is a great way for me to develop peace in my own life, because then I realize I'm not responsible for what they do. And me not being responsible for what they do is a truth, whether I can recognize it or realize it or not. It's still truth. It's always truth. And so what happens when we start to cultivate this idea that I have to control you? I lose peace if I have this idea that I have to control you, because now I'm not just responsible for me, I'm responsible for you. And if you have little kids, of course, there is truth to that. My poor son, I forgot to feed him the other day. He was hungry. That's on me. Now, he's also 11, so he could have brought it up a little bit sooner. There's some mutual responsibility there, but the majority of that responsibility sits with me. But if you're an adult and I'm an adult, I can't control you. If you're not my child, I can't control you. In fact, I would argue even if you are my child, I can't control you. I can control some of what you do. And so much contentment and peace is lost because people try to control other people. Well, they voted for Donald Trump and I don't like that. Okay. Well, they voted for Joe Biden and he's not even really in charge, you know. Okay. We're back to the same question I ask all the time. What's the number? What's the percentage that you have to agree with someone on before you don't have to control them? It's silliness. The number's 0. I don't have to agree with you on anything to not have to try to control you. But here's the thing. It's not just good for, it's not just helpful to society if I don't try and control you. It's helpful to my mental health that I don't try to control you. It is helpful to me that I don't try to control you. And one of the problems, one of the reasons we're so polarized today is my conservative friends are trying to control my liberal friends. My liberal friends are trying to control my conservative friends. And all rules are off in how you interact once I'm trying to control you, especially if I believe I'm controlling you for what benefits you. So, right, and this is the adage, ends justify the means. So I can lie. I can spin things. I was reading a book recently that wants to deal with how the church talks about sexuality. And that's a topic that we need to talk about. Specifically, this book is written for how the church talks about women's sexuality. And it talks about rescuing sex from a lot of bad things. And it's a really good premise that is poorly executed, because the questions that they ask at the end of each chapter, they have like questions for deeper thought. So many of the questions they ask are disingenuous. They are set up to only give you one possible answer. That's trying to control someone. And that is a robber of contentment, which robs peace. And remember, this whole episode today, what we're trying to talk about is how do we build peace? How do we build peace in a day and age where it's never enough, we always have to have more, and where we have to tell everyone else how to live? So if you want peace, you're going to have to pay contentment. Everybody thinks, I did talk about this in a previous episode. Well, happiness, peace, it comes from something over the horizon. No, it comes from within. It comes from you making hard choices to cultivate gratitude and thankfulness for what you have. If you don't like your house, that's fine. You can improve it. You can even look for a different house and still be content with the one you have. It's amazing to me whenever I talk to people who go to other countries and they talk about the people that they encounter who are incredibly impoverished, and yet they're always like, but man, they're so happy. They're so content, right? Because they realize happiness doesn't come from other things. They don't try to control each other, and they develop excitement for when their friends are doing well. Those are the 3 things that we have to do to get to peace. How about you? What have you found that has been helpful for you to get to peace? What have you found that you're like, hey, you know what? This is something that I do that has helped me have more peace in my life. I'd love to hear from you. Send me an email. Love to hear about it. Tweet at me or X at me, whatever that's called. Just let me know. All right. Thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you next week.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please share with a friend. And hey, give us that rating in your podcast store. Until next time, change possible.